It's never good when you have fans chanting "What a waste of money" after a main event.
You can't chant "What a waste of money." Like what rhythm?
They should
what
do
beat
it.
would you use for "What a waste
Do it
of money"?
like one of the old Hatton songs.
Oh man.
It's easier to chant that.
Well, you can chant that while I tell everybody welcome
Waste of money. Yeah, I think
to the Sunday Puncher podcast,
What a waste
where it's
of
not
money.
a waste of money.
Waste of money.
Here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about Terence Crawford versus Gennady Golovkin and Crawford's future. We're going to talk about a bunch of news from this week. There's a lot of news, a lot around Gennady Golovkin in the wake of his pay-per-view with David Lemieux, and we're going to talk about the previews for next week. Let's first start with Terence Crawford's. Dean, I think you told me after you'd watched it that was a complete dismantling of Gennady Golovkin. Oh, and Dean's filling in for Simon today. Jason's also here.
Fake Simon's back.
Fake
I
Simon.
I was surprised it went 10 rounds. I said to you before, I thought it'd only go 4, but in those 10 rounds, he demonstrated.
Since when is Terence Crawford Gennady Golovkin?
Yeah.
I just didn't think.
It takes his time.
Yeah, I just didn't think he had much about him. I thought Crawford was just going to destroy him.
Well, I'd say Crawford pretty much did destroy him. It's just just over a longer period of time. And Max Kellerman says a lot of stuff, and there was a lot of insanity as far as previous generations' names being tossed around when it comes to Crawford. And I'm a big Crawford supporter, but one thing that Max did kind of hit on the head. The nail on the head with last night, I think, was when he had said that, Crawford doesn't necessarily have the power of, say, a Golovkin, which is kind of worse for his opponents because he definitely has the punch placement, the timing, the boxing ability, and everything else. So basically his opponents just have to sustain more punishment over a longer period of time. And kind of that's what we saw with, Crawford versus Gene last night, is just a sustained beatdown. Where there were rounds where Gene was single digit landed, and that is never a good night.
Yeah, ask Manny Pacquiao.
Right.
The thing with Crawford's kind of like a puncher, I think, the way Canelo is, where they're both pretty heavy handed, and if you don't got a good chin, they will knock you out. But at the same time, every punch is gonna hurt, and they might not even be punching you with the intention to knock you out or knock you down, but they just punch in such a way that it's concussive and they add up over time. And it's why a guy like Crawford will get a lot of stoppages later in the fight when you've just had enough. I think, first off, hats off to Gennady Golovkin in that fight because he didn't have a chance after the first round. It was really obvious. In the first round, he had some success with his jab. Very quickly, Crawford realized, okay, your jab leaves you exposed because you carry it so low. Let me switch southpaw where I can control where you're going to keep your hand, and then all of a sudden, Gene had no clue what to do. Gene was completely, I should say John because it's Deary John. He just couldn't do anything, and he was just, it was almost like he was fighting by guessing what he should do next. And Crawford just took him apart every time.
Yeah, he definitely looked lost in there. Absolutely. There's one thing that, me and you, Angelo, have had this conversation for years now. It seems like talking about Crawford versus Pacquiao, and even pre-Mayweather Pacquiao, you were always of the mindset that it's Crawford's fight. And I think your main argument was Crawford's timing, mostly, and his, obviously his other traits and boxing ability. And I was always kind of 50-50 on that fight as to which way it could go. But man, not that he was in against, the most stellar opposition or anything like that, but I gotta give you credit. I completely agree with you at this point. I think Crawford could handedly outpoint Pacquiao at this point in time where both of their careers are at.
Right, they're going to meet at the perfect time where it's going to favor Crawford.
Exactly.
But the reason why I've always said that Crawford will beat Pacquiao is a couple of things. First, at the worst for Crawford, this fight will look like the Marquez fight. Because Pacquiao, he's content to let himself be countered. He doesn't want to, obviously, but if you're a counterpuncher, it's pretty easy to get him because he makes openings. And Crawford will take advantage of those. We've seen Crawford is a pretty aggressive counterpuncher in the style of Marquez. I think if you were to look at for a comparison, Crawford's more Marquez than Mayweather. He just happens to have a much better defense than Marquez ever had. But, I mean, in fact, he's more of a combination of a hybrid between Mayweather and Marquez. He throws much more combination. He attacks. And he does way better at attacking than Marquez has ever done.
Well, he's way better. Yeah, he's way better at just being a pure offensive fighter.
Yeah.
Right, and not just countering. Whereas Marquez is, definitely more on the counterpuncher, side of things. Crawford could easily, flip the switch and become the aggressor and start throwing first if that's what it's going to do to disrupt your game. So that's the way that I've always seen Crawford fight. Is Crawford takes an approach to win a fight by what does he have to do to disrupt you. It's things, like Hopkins does too. He doesn't just say, I'm going to go in guns blazing with this strategy. It's what do I need to do to pick you apart and to make you feel like you're having an off night. And
Right.
sometimes it takes him a couple rounds to figure it out. Last night, it didn't take that much time at all.
It took 2 minutes and 50 seconds.
Exactly. And then he was on his ass. So, but that's what I love about Crawford is he doesn't go in there to beat you or best you. He goes in there to make you work and make things harder for you. And then through that process of taking away your advantages, he wins fights. It's a really awesome approach to boxing that you don't see with every fighter. And I think that's why he's really special.
This is what makes Andre Ward special too. And so I'm gonna throw out 3 names: Andre Ward, Erislandy Lara, and Terence Crawford. Now, what's different? One guy's different, okay, and it's Lara, obviously. Why does Lara not win the fights that Ward and Crawford do when really Lara's a more talented boxer than them? I mean, Lara
marathon.
Was that?
Because he runs a fucking marathon every time he fights.
He doesn't have the offensive output that they have. Crawford and Ward know when to turn on the offense. Lara's content with just trying to beat you by one punch over the course of a round.
There's another element I think that comes in. Those are all accurate. Lara does use excessive movement. He does not throw much. But what he doesn't do that Ward and Crawford do is Ward and Crawford know that it's not enough to win by punching and out-punching the guy. Because it's not just landing punches. They have another element that they need to win, and that is to win the psychological battle in the ring, to mentally break a guy down just as much as they break their face down. And Crawford did that with Gene last night. I mean, Gene...
Oh, he totally did.
He was clueless. He didn't know what to do.
Yes.
But Gene is the kind of guy, you could just tell this is his character, that he wasn't going to give up. And you can tell when he was throwing those big shots and catching Crawford every so often, he was, really just gambling, as Max kept putting it, that he was a gambler, which is fine. But no guy ever goes into a fight with Lara and thinks that they can't win it. Canelo wasn't beaten. Canelo was frustrated because Lara just was doing what Lara does. Ward has destroyed fighters. Chad Dawson will never be the same. And that's a function of how Ward can neutralize fighters the way very few have been able to. Hopkins has been the master of neutralizing a fighter, where he takes away anything you think is your weapon, which is why, a Golovkin-Hopkins fight, if Hopkins was 5 years younger, which would make him still over 45, that would be a fascinating fight, because you have to know that Hopkins would have taken away what Golovkin likes to do. Now, Golovkin has so much to do that, he might still have something left.
Right.
But it would be fascinating to see what would go on. And that's what just really puts Crawford in a different league than, say, and I hate to say this because I love Danny Garcia, but he's in a different league from Danny Garcia.
He's way above Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia is he's slipping in on points, wins, and things, whereas, Garcia doesn't have that ability to neutralize you. He really doesn't. Danny Garcia is a very predictable fighter. That's the beautiful thing about Crawford and some of the other guys you mentioned.
Accomplishment level,
they're not
Garcia's better.
Sure, he's had bigger fights, but Crawford passes the eye test so much clearer.
Exactly.
Yeah, Crawford is like 20/20 vision for passing the eye test. Um, just and what you see in that eye test is that special ability to mitigate your opponent's best weapons. And the very, very, very few fighters could do that. Most fighters rely on what their abilities are best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas Crawford flips the script on him, and it works every time. So
Hey, Dean, somebody's got to make the case for Pacquiao beating Crawford. So I know
You're
can do
asking
it.
you're
Yeah.
asking the wrong person here.
Yeah. Can you do it?
well, I'll stick.
Hold
up
on. Let's see if
for
Dean
Pac.
can do it. Let's see if Dean can do
Okay.
it. This is
All right.
a little
Case that
experiment.
Yeah, you can
So-
make a case.
It'll be a 147 fight, right?
Most likely. I highly doubt in his last fight he's like, oh, now, yeah, I'll drain down a little bit.
So he's never fought this weight. Pacquiao could be argued to be still dangerous at the weight. And at the same time, I'm sick of all this media bullshit about just fawning all over Crawford like he's the best thing in the world. I saw a fucking article the other day that said he would have beat Mayweather. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. He wouldn't ever beat Mayweather. He's good, don't get me wrong, he's on pound for pound list, deservedly so, but his best win's Gamboa at lightweight.
Who was
No?
featherweight blown up.
Well, there you go. I'm high on Crawford as much as the next guy, but don't give me that shit that he could compete with like Mayweather and some of the other fucking greats. That's just ridiculous. And anybody who believes that shouldn't watch boxing.
So,
He's not that.
so do you have Pacquiao by decision or knockout?
No. If I had to pick a winner in this fight, and this is going like smart choice, Crawford beats Pacquiao.
By knockout or decision?
Decision. He's not knocking him out.
Yeah, he's not going to stop him. I don't think he would stop him.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
His first 147 fight was to knock out and retire Pacquiao. It'd be
It would be Bob
they should
Arum's
both
wet
retire.
dream.
Yeah, they would both retire. Like, you'd hit the height of your career. That'd be great.
Can you imagine how many boxing is saved articles we'd see if Crawford were to knock out Pacquiao? In one of those like classy ways where they shake hands after the fight and it's like, yeah. you got the best of me.
Right. Hugging each other.
But
like the reporter, right?
But look, Bob Arum has said that April 9th, Manny Pacquiao versus Terence Crawford, most likely, right? Pacquiao's last fight.
Right.
Today, he said it's up to Pacquiao who he faces, and that could be Tim Bradley 3, Crawford, or Amir Khan.
Well, and Michael Kahns, who is Pacquiao's advisor, has said that they really don't want Crawford as like the last fight of Pacquiao's career, mostly because maybe they don't want to lose.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
If I lose, take Khan.
You think Pacquiao beats Khan?
I think Pacquiao stops Khan.
I think he could get by Khan. Absolutely.
Chris Algieri fucking hurt the guy, man.
Yeah,
Chris
man.
Algieri hurt
No,
him.
I mean I have that as a 4-round fight
Yep.
for Khan. I'm kidding.
No, you're not.
No, you.
No, you're
I've
not
never
kidding.
picked Khan to win a fight. I mean, that's obviously a joke, but
No, 47.
okay. If it's not Pacquiao, what do you do?
As Crawford, you
Yeah.
fight the winner of. I mean, you have such limited options with Top Rank. You fight the winner of Bradley Rios. That's what you do.
Or do you stay at super lightweight and fight Victor Postol?
Oh,
No.
yeah. Why not? He's got a. I would say yes. You could certainly do that. If you want to stay at 140, fight Postol because you're gonna outbox him too.
You're gonna stop him if they fight.
Yeah.
Crawford stops him. I'm telling you guys
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah,
But that's a stupid fight.
Well, no, it's a good fight. It's a good fight because Postol is on a pretty high note right now. He really is. You know,
Yeah,
he's
but-
getting a lot of credit for his last win. So it'd be
What's
a good
worth
scalp
more?
to have.
What's worth more in the eyes of the casual fan? Beating up Bradley or Rios, whoever wins, or beating up Postol? I think we agree here that beating Postal is probably better as far as how prestigious was that win.
Yeah, but Bradley
Why,
Rios have
though?
the name.
Why?
What makes him more money in the future?
Winner of Bradley Rios.
Heck yeah, and I think that's what they got to do. Like, he's either got to fight Bradley, because I think Bradley's beating Rios, or Pacquiao. Or
Yeah.
they wheel Marquez out from the retirement home and let Crawford beat up on him.
What makes
Now Crawford Marquez is a fun fight. That's a fun fight. That's
First stoppage of Marquez's career?
I think that's a that's a really, really interesting matchup.
It's like 50. He's not fought in like 2 years.
Actually, he's only 40 something.
43. Yeah. 40 something.
Only look at the wall.
He's juiced to the gills. Don't worry about it. Edit point.
No, this is no edit point, because we're now going to transition into Golovkin versus Lemieux. And so they did approximately maybe just above 150,000 pay-per-view buys. But if we know anything, depending on how pessimistic you are, you multiply anywhere between, or you take 15% to about 5%, you take that away. It's less than 150. Take 15 to 5% away, and that's what they actually did. Which is, if you ask them, they're going to tell you that it was a success. But I got to tell you guys something. Dean, what stats do you have for us on this?
This did the same pay-per-view buys as Roy Jones and Bernard Hopkins rematch.
Roy Jones and Bernard Hopkins.
Rematch. Not the first one. The one where the combined age was about 98.
You know, and that fight wasn't even on HBO pay-per-view.
Nope.
So, I guess, what does that mean, though? What's the point? I think is what we need to get to the bottom of. I think the takeaway points are, he could fill Madison Square Garden, the big arena, right? I was in there. It was as loud and as crazy as it's been for Kodo fights that I've been to there.
It was all the Kazakh people, though.
Seriously, yes, seriously.
Like, I mean, in America.
There were a lot of Nicaraguans too, for Chocolatito. Entire sections. So I think the takeaway is maybe he's the B-side to a pay-per-view, against, Canelo, Cotto, etc. Maybe
Gonzalez?
his next... No.
Just kidding.
Maybe he's the B-side.
If he wants to be headline,
the bottom line is he's a big draw. He could sell out, sold out StubHub to the point where they had added seats they had never added before, added bleachers. You know what I mean? He sells out Madison Square Garden. Dude is a draw. People want to come see him live. Pay-per-view numbers, maybe they're just, he's not known. He's still an unknown commodity.
Well, I think that, yes, he's a draw, but let me tell you this, and this might hurt a little bit. Golovkin's only a draw amongst people who are really serious about boxing, and that's why this did 150,000 buys, is because only the people who cannot help themselves order this pay-per-view. There's another smaller group of people who seriously cannot help themselves, who are addicts, and those were the 50,000 people, or no, sorry, I take that back, maybe 40,000 people who ordered Hopkins versus Dawson on pay-per-view.
Well, I'm, part of the elite 30,000 who ordered Golovkin versus Ashita.
Well, that's the even smaller group of people who seriously cannot help themselves and actually might need help. But that was actually a pretty good card. I'll throw that out there. The Roy Jones versus Bernard Hopkins one was just awful. The co-headliner was Rocky Juarez versus American boy Jason Litzau. Okay.
No, the Ashita card was part of that.
Super Six, Dennis Grachev.
Grachev and Edwin Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yep.
Yeah.
He fought Ezekiel Maderna. Grachev fought, I don't know, he looked like...
Grachev went nuts in the first round, knocked somebody out, in the first round. It's crazy.
Yeah, but that's what this says. It says that Golovkin's a draw, a big draw, a can't-miss draw amongst people who just don't really miss boxing, period. So we all came out in full force. But...
why?
What's that?
Do you want to know why he doesn't sell? because he's not fought any names up until this point. You look at how Pacquiao became a pay-per-view star, beating De La Hoya. He was the B-side to that fight.
Right.
Or when Mayweather became a pay-per-view star, he was fighting guys who were already pay-per-view sellers. Golovkin
Right.
hasn't had that.
There's never been a passing of the torch moment, and
No.
not to go backwards in our conversation, but that's what Crawford needs. Crawford needs that passing of the torch with Manny Pacquiao. Otherwise, he may never get to those levels of success. Same thing with Golovkin. But in the only person, so Dean, out there, who is it for Golovkin? It's the winner of Cotto Canelo, right? That's the passing of the torch fight for him.
Now, interesting we say that, because I don't think we're going to agree. Or sorry, I don't think we're going to disagree with that. I think that's a star-making, you're the biggest draw in boxing now fight.
But Dean's right. He hasn't had that fight.
Oh, absolutely.
He hasn't had that yet. So the amount of, like, just the fact that he could be on pay-per-view at all is big. You know,
he's going to be B-side to that fight, regardless of who the opponent is. But it's dangerous for him, this fight. Canelo wants him at 155 maximum weight.
And if Canelo wants him at 155, Cotto's going to be like, well, then I want 154.2.
I'm on 147.
Cotto's not making it through that fight.
Wait, what?
It's going to be Canelo Golovkin.
Right. And do you think that fight is actually good? Like, is Golden Boy going to risk another one of their fighters against Golovkin? And I know that Canelo wants the fight, and I'm not saying that Canelo will try to avoid it or anything. But if you're Golden Boy, you got to think of your business, and it's a huge risk. And I know that Canelo will always be a draw simply because, look, he's one of those fighters that, win or lose, everybody's going to tune in. You love Canelo, you love him through and through, okay? He has got a lot of loyal supporters, but at the same time, on a business scale, you can't risk another one of your young fighters who has potential to sit atop the throne in earnings in boxing.
It never stopped De La Hoya.
It hasn't stopped, and if you go back and just look at Canelo's track record, Trout, Mayweather, Lara,
right?
But it hasn't stopped Canelo yet.
But they had Mayweather on their like, they lost all their guys that would provide some what would you call it, like a foundation or a backup for Canelo. But now it's like, this Canelo's the guy. Golden Boy doesn't have anybody else.
He is the Golden Boy, right? No, really.
He's actually the Red Boy, but
yeah.
I mean, I would love to see the fight, and I think obviously at some point this fight does happen. But for Golden Boy, you got to think about your business. And I know a lot of fans don't like to hear that. A lot of fans think that they should make any fight, regardless of implications or the consequences of making any fight. But I think there's a level of responsibility Golden Boy is going to have to look at and consider when they are looking to make this fight. And 155, which Canelo has said, that's one way to put this in your favor to at least take some of the risk out, is drain Golovkin down to 155. Yep. And the fact that Canelo could make these demands and then Golovkin is going to say yes, that just tells you who's the A side and who's the B side and who's the real draw here.
Yes.
Yeah, well, Golovkin will say yes, then whoop up on him.
He won't.
It's not going to make a difference.
It is going to make a difference.
I don't know that it's safe to go down to 155 if I'm Canelo or Golovkin. Like, I just wouldn't want to do that.
You wouldn't want to, but it's not like the guy is ever out of training camp. He's in shape all year round. You know, he doesn't have much. You know, he'd have to cut a little bit of muscle mass probably to make it, because, you know, he doesn't have much body fat. So he'd have to go into cut a little bit of muscle mass, but he could get down there, and he could get down to 155 and do it.
Okay, but let me ask you guys, what does it take to lose muscle mass?
Cancer.
That's not funny, but yes, that's one way. But what does it take to lose muscle mass? It takes not using them so they can atrophy.
Right.
So Golovkin's going to have to get on the shelf and like not do stuff for a while to lose those pounds, unless he's going to drain himself, in which case you might need to use some diuretics. And Golovkin at his weigh-ins doesn't look like he really can sacrifice any more water weight.
It doesn't look like he's got much to take away.
No, there probably isn't much there. Maybe a pound, maybe two.
I mean, he's in fantastic shape.
Yeah. But I think getting Canelo down to 152 for the Mayweather fight was more detrimental to Canelo than getting Golovkin down to 155 would be for Golovkin Canelo.
Well, you project.
I
We
just
don't know.
I just don't think weight will be an issue. And I thought I heard Oscar batting around the date of early 2017 for that potential fight.
Is everybody trying to fight in 2017 now? Is that when
Yeah,
we're
is that
making
the new thing?
fights?
That's the new thing. Yeah, early 2017.
All right, well let's stick with that. This is the 2017 podcast, and we're talking about the 2017 matchup
Uh,
potentially between
between Tyson
Naoya
Fury.
Inoue and Roman Gonzalez. See, Inoue's or it's Inoue, I think is how you say his name. I think I finally
Inoue.
figured it out how to say it. He's looking to move to America very soon, probably next year. And so if you've not really heard this guy, and maybe you heard Max Kellerman talking about him on the pay-per-view last week, Naoya Inoue is how Lomachenko should have been brought up, and what it would have looked like if they had not listened to Lomachenko, a guy who wasn't a professional, whose team had no professional experience. Inoue is already a 3 division weight champion in his first 8 fights. And in that 8th fight, he just absolutely destroyed the reigning, decade-long champion at the super flyweight division.
Yeah.
And Inoue's nickname is the Monster, and he literally has looked like one. Gonzalez gets a lot of praise because he's pretty flawless as an offensive fighter, but Inoue he's destroyed quality opponents, and while still looking much better defensively than Gonzalez. Inoue's body attack against Narvaez was just filthy.
He destroyed Narvaez.
I mean,
absolutely destroyed him.
Yeah, and he's looking to come to America, and it's interesting because I didn't think he would, because he's a draw over in Japan, and fighting here is kind of logistically a nightmare to figure out times where you're going to put a fight here that'll be in a good time for people in Japan. But I think Inoue is one of those guys like Canelo, who is more interested in leaving a legacy than making money or being a popular guy. He wants to challenge himself. And he's 20 years old? No, I think he's 21 now. But the dude is a baby. If he were to beat Gonzalez, we would already have to start considering. And I know he's 22 years old. And there's a lot of hyperbole with Roman Gonzalez from HBO. But seriously, if 22-year-old Naoya Inoue, or he would probably be 23 when the fight happens, if he were to go and beat Gonzalez, Inoue we'd have to start looking at him like this is the best boxing talent we've seen come around since Floyd Mayweather, and prior to that, since Roy Jones Jr., or whoever your favorite guy is of any generation. But he'd be a generational type of fighter. And he doesn't really have the frame to go bigger than, say, maybe super bantamweight. He's only 5'4". His reach isn't very... He doesn't have a big reach. It should be a long reach. I misspoke there. But yeah, and Inoue, he just announced his next fight. He's been dealing with a hand injury all this year. He's back at the end of December. And that'll likely be his last fight in Japan before he comes over here and starts knocking out whatever they put in front of him.
Let me just quickly jump in there. Did you say he was 3-weight world champion?
Yeah.
2-weight. He skipped flyweight.
That's right.
He went
That's right.
Light flyweight to super flyweight.
I had it in my head that he had started as a minimum weight, and I was thinking of Kosei Tanaka. So he's a 2-weight world champion, but still 8 fights. And literally, this is how you do it. You do a few domestic fights, then you challenge for a national title, then you challenge for a regional title, and then you challenge for a world title. That's how they did it with Inoue. He defended the light flyweight title once before jumping up to super flyweight and then beating up the best guy there. I mean, the equivalent would be if Lomachenko had come up, won the featherweight title, just the way he did against Gary Russell Jr., and then he jumped all the way up to lightweight and knocked out Terence Crawford, who was the number 1 guy in the division at the time.
Yep.
All
He's
right.
small, so people won't give him that credit.
Did you say he's small, so nobody's going to give him credit?
Yep, that's the sad truth.
Well, this is why HBO is trying so hard to sell Gonzalez because, I mean, it's one of those things where if you don't, you're just going to forget about him really easily.
They're about 8 fights too late. They should have been doing this about 8 fights ago for Gonzalez. They're just jumping on the hype train at his peak.
Well, they didn't want him, and it took K2 coming in and saying, no, this is the guy we're putting on the undercard before HBO's like, okay, fine, we'll talk about Roman Gonzalez.
HBO will have a stupid history of not wanting good guys, though. They didn't want Sergio Martinez.
No.
But that's HBO for you.
Let's see. We have also Andre Ward, who Andre Ward has said he's going to appear on the Canelo Cotto undercard. Fine, right? And he found this guy. I can't say his name, but he had a good comic book name. His last name was like Murdoch or something. Gonna fight him on the undercard, and the Nevada State Athletic Commission all of a sudden got it in their mind that we are gonna reject an opponent. It's like, okay, Nevada State Athletic Commission, when was the last time you guys rejected an opponent? Yeah, never. I've never heard of them rejecting an opponent, but and granted, if you're gonna reject anyone's opponent, you should reject the guy who's gonna fight against Andre Ward, in a fight that you can't win. Sorry, you're not beating Andre Ward, especially if you're a domestic Australian fighter, as Murdoch is. I'm trying to look up his full name.
Rohan Murdoch.
Rohan?
Yeah.
That is such a comic book villain name.
Thing is, though, you got to look at it like this. The Nevada State Athletic Commission, these sanctioned fucking Roy Jones to fight.
Do they still sanction him?
He's fucking Russian now, so probably not, but... But yeah, they were sanctioning a badly faded Roy Jones when he got beat by Calzaghe, and I don't know if he's fought in there since after that, but it's just really weird to knock this guy back.
Murdoch's...
I mean, I'm glad they have, but they should make a habit of it. But I don't think they're going to make a habit of it. I think they'll still allow serious mismatches to take place, and they'll pick and choose who they do it to.
Yeah, and I mean, of all people, I haven't really seen too much of Murdoch. But looking at him, he's only lost once, and it was really early in his career, a majority decision. Otherwise, he's an undefeated Australian domestic fighter, apart from that one loss he took earlier. So I guess you can't really call him undefeated. He's got good size. It looks like he's in shape. So I'm not quite sure why they rejected this one, other than the fact that they know how good Andre Ward is. But should you really be looking at that? Because if you look at that, then it opens up a bunch of doors that weren't previously open when it comes to rejecting fights.
Excuse me, the Nevada State Athletic Commission sanctioned Kovalev versus Mohammadi this year. Why are they suddenly deciding that Andre Ward can't fight? They were the guys who sanctioned that shit show against Mohammadi.
You mean the execution?
Exactly. They sanctioned that.
Yeah, that's awful.
Was 4 months ago, but they're not going to let Ward fight.
Yeah, this is a real bizarre move on the commission's part.
They're trying to freeze Ward out for some reason.
Ooh, can we blame this on Al Heyman somehow?
So I'm thinking why this doesn't really make sense.
Hold on, let me build a case against Heyman. Just give me a second.
It's not Heyman, is it?
No, but I mean, aren't all of boxing's problems caused by Al Heyman?
Yeah, he's literally Hitler in boxing terms.
I think it's because Al Heyman didn't do business with Rock Nation, so Al Heyman called the Nevada State Athletic Commission and called in some favors, as he did always, or as he always does, especially when he called in the favor for Kovalev to fight Mohammadi. And they told him, hey, don't let Andre Ward fight. Like, make him stay in Oakland. By the way, all you people that are saying, yeah, Ward isn't willing to travel outside of Oakland, he's willing to travel to Las Vegas to fight on an undercard against some guy nobody's heard of. Oh, but he doesn't want to fight anybody outside of his hometown. Get out of here. He fought Edwin Rodriguez in Ontario, California, which is like an hour away from me, away from Oakland. And then he fought Carl Froch in New Jersey. Come on, people. All right. Antonio Tarver has tested positive for a banned substance again. And Steve Cunningham's going to sue him. But I only brought that up. Turn the echo off. Is it off? No, it's not off.
For who?
I don't know. Whenever I speak, I'm hearing an echo. All right, it's gone.
Yeah, it wasn't on our end.
All right, Luis. I only brought that up to transition into Luis Ortiz, who is no stranger to the failed test, will be fighting Bryant Jennings on HBO. Now, this is for his interim vacant paper WBA title. So do you guys want to, which road do you guys want to take? Do you want to take the praiseworthy road here and say that this is a great heavyweight match between an American heavyweight, or do you guys want to compare this and be pretty realistic and look at where it stands in the grand scheme of the heavyweight division?
I like to think that Jennings did a good showing against Klitschko in his last fight. One that people didn't expect. And he showed, a lot more.
He was standing at the end of the fight.
He was standing at the end of the fight, and he had limited success. He had significantly more success than people led him to have going into the fight. Let's not play revisionist history bullshit on me here, Angelo.
No, I'm saying that's why it was surprising, because I thought he would be on his back at the end of the fight.
People were thinking it was a 3-4 round fight. And not only did he, manage, he touched him a little bit, not a lot. And I think got a lot from Jennings out of that fight. In the grand scheme of things, is this a relevant fight to the heavyweight boxing, landscape?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But, if it puts another win under Jennings' belt, I think that's important. Because I do think Jennings could be a decent competitor. I'm not saying he's elite level talent or anything like that, but he showed that he could hang with Klitschko, which not many fighters could do. So
Jennings put on an inspired performance, and I think we've talked about it on the podcast before that I think most of Jennings' success, I would say a little more than 50% of it, was that who knew? Like, nobody saw that performance, like not even that performance, because the performance is independent of the style which he fought with. Nobody expected that style. When we saw Jennings, it's like, who are you?
Yeah, it made no sense. Like, it was right. But
it was like Chris Algieri's style against Amir Khan. I was like, wait a second, this isn't Chris Algieri.
How is this happening? Right. And he managed to switch it up and made it for an interesting fight. The both of them, in both cases.
And I just want to say, I would like to see Jennings continue that, because I thought that was an interesting style. And imagine a fight between, I highly doubt you guys watched it, but Jennings, between a fight between Jennings and Andy Ruiz Jr. And don't think Arum would not put Andy Ruiz Jr. with the new interim paper WBA regular champion Bryant Jennings, because he would. And you guys say stop it. Look,
Andy
Ruiz Jr.'s lost some weight. Not a lot, but he's lost some weight. He's lost like 30 pounds. 30 pounds, yeah. Okay?
That's a decent amount.
But, man, if you did not see his fight last night, go check it out, because you'll never see a man as big as Ruiz
move his head so quickly.
No, he didn't move his head.
Oh,
no,
he didn't?
But he's really quick on his feet. His hands are unbelievably fast. He was beating the hell out of this guy, and he just couldn't get him down. It's Rafael Zambano. If you've ever seen that dude, he's tough. But Ruiz looked like a lightweight in there who just happened to be trapped in a fat suit. And that would be a great fight if him and Jennings could both come out with their respective action styles. But I wanted to talk about Ortiz a little bit. HBO gave him a lot of praise last week. You guys remember this, right? Actually, let me just ignore that, because Jason, you didn't watch the broadcast, and Dean was watching Sky or whatever the heck it was on over there.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
So I'm the
Yeah,
only one that knows what I'm talking about.
Did they? Why did they really give him? They
They were
gave him a
like,
lot of credit.
yeah, they were giving him a lot of credit. Like, oh, he's a dangerous, big punching southpaw in the heavyweight division. Everybody needs to be on watch now. And it's like, not really,
Oh, give
because
me a
Ortiz
break.
is like almost 40, and he's like tested positive before for performance
I
enhancing
got to be
drugs in the
completely
past.
honest. HBO has been just their broadcasting lately has been so over the top, like excessive in like considering anybody who's on HBO to be like the biggest threats in the division, and they just seem to have like a very narrow-minded approach to like boxing as far as like boxing is what's on HBO. Like that's it.
Doesn't it
And it's
remind
just
you of when Showtime first started? Like, remember when Showtime kind of went through that like overhaul and they brought in more
that
Ranello and all this stuff? Doesn't it feel like
right.
that?
It does where like, oh, we are boxing, and it's
Yeah.
like boxing has a bigger landscape, guys. Let's not like get this mixed up. You know what I mean? And you start to kind of, it feels inauthentic, sometimes. That's all I'll say.
I'll watch WWE events with my nephew sometimes. And one of the things I cannot stand is their commentary because it's like it's just pure sales pitch.
Right.
Like they just try so hard, and obviously they have to because there's they're trying to get you to believe something, like because it's not real, and
So top for the sake of being over the top.
right, but at the same time it's like there's a point where they cross where it's like, okay, there's a level of selling that we expect, and now you've crossed it where you're shoving stuff down my throat constantly, and I don't even know what's going on here. I don't even know what you're talking about because all you're doing is trying to sell me an online subscription service, or you're just really trying to sell me that this guy's bad. It's like, I don't need to know that because he just kicked the guy in the nuts. I know that
Right.
he's not good.
Right.
Describe the action, please. And that's just kind of what HBO is doing. The Roman Gonzalez thing was over the top. And I was talking to Adam, and he didn't see the HBO broadcast. He was at the wedding last week, marrying people, and he watched the Box Nation feed because he streamed it. And then he's like, I came back, and he's back, and he watched the replay yesterday, and he was like, this was a little ridiculous. I did
Yeah.
not know that they were talking like this about Gonzalez. Like, I guess he understood why some people were upset discussing the fight afterwards. It was because, look, we get how good Gonzalez is, but we don't need to be like, we can all see. We know if you watch boxing, you know who's good and you know who isn't. It's pretty obvious. Let's see. Things that are also obvious. Chris Eubank Jr. and Demetrius Andrade have both seen the flaws in Gennady Golovkin and would like to take his head off.
Oh, do they have the blueprint?
Not quite sure if they found a blueprint, but they have at least found
This is
a
bullshit.
tattered map. Oh, okay. It's a little
Did
strong.
Did they find a check for $1.5 million signed by K2 Promotions?
It's bullshit. This is his dad talking.
Oh, it's his senior talking?
You don't think that Junior believes that?
No, does he, Al? This is he's now being called English Eubank to separate himself from his son. So
Shouldn't
give him
his
a
son be the one who changes his name?
Oh yeah, but we'll give him a benefit of the doubt and call him English Eubank. Okay?
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah. He's been the one who's been saying for the past year and a half he would beat Golovkin. Nothing from the son, all from the father.
Oh, give me a break.
He's got more power. He's a better boxer. He'd beat anybody in the middleweight division. And then
Is this English talking?
This is the dad talking. And then Billy Joe Saunders happened.
And then Billy Joe Saunders came out and said, Chris, Golovkin beats both of us on the same day. Stop playing.
In the build up to that fight,
I loved it. That was beautiful when he said that.
In the build up to that fight, Eubank Senior, or English Eubank, whatever you want to call him, was saying that he was the best middleweight on the planet. He's the strongest fighter he's ever seen, and he would knock out anybody in the middleweight division. And then he lost to Saunders. So,
did they ever come up with an excuse?
what excuse can you make? He got outboxed. All Eubank is all power.
It was, yeah. He came with a really pressure approach, very straightforward, very easy to outmaneuver. But if I recall, didn't Eubank have some success late in the fight?
He did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
but
kind of came on. Yeah, as what's his face there, Saunders kind of faded out energy wise. Eubank kind of was able to have some limited success. That's why rematch with those two wouldn't be so bad.
If you slow down in front of Eubank, you're in trouble, which is what happened
Yes,
to
exactly.
the fight. But
Yes,
if you can move about in the ring with him and you have head movement and you're good on your feet, then he's in trouble because he really can't. I don't know whether it's he can't cut the ring off or he just can't keep up with the pace or what. But he's just all he is power.
Let me clarify a little bit what Dean says. What Dean is basically trying to say is if you are a competent defender, you can outbox Chris Eubank Jr. very easily, as long as your defense is competent. Now, the reason why that fight was close is because Saunders faded bad
Saunders
late.
faded, and
But-
then he just started eating shots. Yeah.
See, and the reason why Eubank, like if you're competent at defense, you're going to beat him, is that Eubank doesn't have the foundational, he just doesn't have the foundational groundwork. That's like redundant of me to say. He just doesn't have the foundation to like box with guys. Like basic stuff will befuddle him. And that's how Saunders, that was easy work for him. I thought that was gonna be a much closer fight, but Eubank looked pretty clueless. And you know what? In the Chutinov fight, he did too. Eubank beat him off of, just as Dean said, pure power. That's what did it.
Imagine Eubank eating that jab, Golovkin's jab.
He would have looked
all
like
night.
Lemieux. He
Yeah,
would have looked
that's what I'm
exactly the
saying.
same.
It would be one punch. Golovkin could throw a jab all night and keep Eubank off him. Easy. Now, let's talk Andrade, though, because that would be a move up in weight, wouldn't it? Isn't Andrade a 154-pounder?
Yeah.
So he's talking about moving up in weight and fighting Golovkin. See, again, and I talked about this, I think, 2 episodes ago on our preview podcast. With Golovkin, we're seeing the Mayweather effect, where everybody that's either a division below him or above him starts to come out of the woodwork when he fights to say, hey, I want to fight him. So just to get their name in the press. That's what I'm saying. The same thing would happen when Mayweather would fight. You'd get everybody in the world would say, I'll either come up or come down to fight him. Golovkin's starting to have that Mayweather effect on boxing, where, fighters are saying, in the lead up to his fights, they're willing to fight him. It's very interesting.
I think the difference here, though, is that with Mayweather, the reward was the payday. So he didn't care if he won or lost. And I think
Robert Guerrero got paid the same amount David Lemieux did last night.
But
what? You just
that
said
was
the
a long
payday.
time ago.
I'm wrong.
I think with Golovkin is that the reward is maybe beating him, and you becoming the biggest draw in the sport, because
that would be a reward for a Floyd fight too. But the monetary.
Yeah, but come on, nobody was beating Mayweather.
Yeah, well, nobody's beating Golovkin.
And that's what brings us to Andrade.
Wasn't Golovkin the guy who was calling everybody out before Lemieux?
Correct.
He was calling out everybody from Andre Ward to Floyd Mayweather.
Lemieux's the first guy to call out
2 years ago.
Golovkin.
Yeah, no, about 6 months ago. He was calling out Floyd Mayweather about 6 months ago.
Yep, after the Pacquiao fight, he was definitely doing that.
There you go. Right. Yeah. And he's been calling out Canelo and Cotto and Andre Ward and Lemieux and anybody else who's got a belt. So you can throw in Andy Lee in that if you want.
He surprisingly hasn't called out Andy Lee. I can't recall Golovkin ever mentioning Andy Lee. And you know why? It's because he's scared of Andy Lee.
Yeah.
That's the only answer here. Is he's scared of him.
Lee and Quillen.
No, he's mentioned Quillen before. He's not scared of Quillen. He's scared of Andy Lee. You know why? He's Irish.
Got that traveler blood.
Exactly. You haven't seen Golovkin say Billy Joe Saunders.
That's right.
That's because Billy Joe Saunders said he'd only be able to beat him if he had an AK-47, but that's a whole other thing. Ruslan Provodnikov is back, guys. November 7th in Monaco against Jesus Rodriguez. How many losses does Jesus Rodriguez have? Should we count them?
More or less than Provodnikov.
Yeah, so what's the over-under? So you at home, what do you think? You're listening. Okay, so
I'm going to set the over-under at 6 losses.
Okay.
I
So
reckon
now
about
I'm going to,
9.
when I post this up, we are going to put the link of Jesus Rodriguez's BoxRec page, and you can find out if you were right or wrong. The over-under is what?
I put it at 6.
I think we're going to have to go 6.5.
6.5 was what I was gonna. Yeah, okay.
I think he's
Over-under
lost
is
9.
okay. So I'm not going to say what he's got. Just know that
That's the over under.
Rodriguez does look like he can take some punishment. Let's just say that from his picture.
It looks like boxing's Chris Benoit.
Okay, I thought Edwin Valero was boxing's Chris Benoit. Not really, because Valero didn't have the courage that Benoit did.
Let's not get on to Edwin Valero, please.
Fair enough. It's always a touchy subject with me.
Let's move this train along.
All right, Gonzalez is pricing himself out of fights. Isn't that crazy that
It's insane.
But you know what? If he does,
You know what?
we have HBO to blame.
Little tiny little balls on that guy.
Okay, yeah. Okay. We're not talking about this anymore.
Tiny little balls on that guy.
We're completely off the rails here. Let's talk about the previews for next week. Tony Thompson versus Malik Scott's going to headline a Bounce TV card, PBC on Bounce.
Now Tony Thompson, that guy's got some balls, and his wife knows about it.
Let's see. Malik Scott. What do we know about Malik Scott? Oh, he was knocked out by Deontay Wilder. That's
Sent him to he was off a phantom punch.
That punch might have hurt him, I don't know.
A phantom punch.
So Malik Scott, he's got 2 losses in his career, both stoppage losses, once to Derek Chisora and once to Deontay Wilder,
punch.
which is basically, on par. We kind of know what kind of fighter beats him. And then he's got a win over Alex Leopai in his last fight. And then we have Tony Thompson here. And that was a year ago, by the way.
Oh, wow.
And then Tony Thompson, who, let's see,
That's
recently
Tony Thompson's last fight.
he stopped Odlanier Solis.
Oh, okay.
Made him quit, by the way. This is prior to that he had lost a decision to Carlos Takam. Takam's a good heavyweight, but not that good because Alexander Povetkin killed him.
He decapitated him.
And before that, he had won a split decision over Odlanier Solis. Before that, he UD'd Kubrat Pulev, and then obviously he did the David Twice Price deal before that.
These
Tony
are
Thompson.
They're 2 gatekeepers.
Yeah, Thompson's definitely Thompson's the toughest gatekeeper though. Thompson's the gatekeeper's like that's the last line of defense.
He's the last step of the gatekeepers, right? Malik's level below that. I would venture to say that Deontay Wilder hasn't fought somebody on Tony Thompson's level yet.
No.
I have a question. Would you like to see the winner of this fight the winner of Jennings and Ortiz?
No, I'd like to see the winner of this fight the winner of Fury Klitschko.
No, I would agree. I'd go with what Dean says. I would think I want Thompson in with Wilder.
That's what I want. I don't care about the Jennings Ortiz fight. What does that solve? I want Thompson versus Wilder.
Thompson with Wilder, yeah.
Because Thompson's not going to put up with that crap.
No, exactly. Thompson is. If America thinks they have a heavyweight fighter in Wilder, wait till they see Thompson. It's not like he's something like super special, but like the dude's a good banana peel, and if you don't know what you're doing, he's gonna take advantage of you.
My favorite thing about Tony Thompson is that his shorts are straight out of 2000. Like he dresses in the ring like he's still about the gang life. I mean, those shorts are humongous that he wears.
That's where Sergio Martinez got his trunks from.
Oh, he's like, hey, Thompson, who does your ring gear?
Yeah.
And I like how he wears white, like high white socks too. He looks like one of my uncles.
Yeah. Looks like
the sketchy one.
Yeah.
We've all got the sketchy uncle.
Sketchy uncle.
All right, and then on the undercard is Haskell Rhodes. Who? Versus Sergey Lipinets.
Who?
You guys don't know who Haskell Rhodes is or Sergey Lipinets?
I'm still trying to figure out where Bounce TV is on my cable box.
If you actually go to Bounce TV /PBC or whatever the heck it is, it tells you what channel.
It tells you what channel.
You just tell it like this is my cable, and then it'll tell you like, okay, well this is where you got to go, man.
That's what I use for the last Bounce TV card. It's actually a halfway decent site. And if they do it like they did the last Bounce TV card, they actually streamed it
Yeah.
live for free.
Yep.
Right on the Bounce TV website. So you could just stream it right through the website without any cable, nothing. So for all you cord cutters out there.
Now, I don't know if this is true, okay? I really don't. But this is let me just tell you guys, all right? Haskell Rhodes is a 28-year-old super lightweight. He's undefeated. He's got one draw, and that was in his last fight to Jared Robinson. Okay, but that's not what I'm trying to get at, okay? What I'm trying to get at is that he's a super lightweight, which is 140 pounds. But it says here that Haskell Rhodes is 5'4".
Well, it's Lydell.
What are you doing?
Not Haskell. Lydell.
Oh. I looked up the wrong guy. No way. Oh, no. It's the same guy. That's his middle name. It's his middle name.
Okay.
No, but he's 5'4". That's like Gamboa fighting a super lightweight. In fact, I would like to see Rhodes versus Gamboa in a battle of tiny super lightweights.
Tiny super lightweights.
This has to happen.
The fighters where there's no division for.
And if you look at Sergey Lipinets' picture on the PBC website, he's got like 40 title belts on there, a dozen medals around his neck. I gotta send this to you guys right now.
Yeah, I gotta see this. So he's a legit threat, huh?
Well, I mean,
Or
wow. Maybe if they're fighting in like archery or something, because I can't imagine that all those medals are from boxing.
Yeah, no, one of them definitely looks like croquet. One of them looks like dressage. One of them looks like
participation
water
in
polo.
sports day.
Oh wow, PBC actually. So you know how they usually do the black and white pictures of their guys?
One of them is legitimately a kickboxing belt. No, the one that he's wearing around his waist.
Oh yeah, it is.
Kickboxing belt.
Just all you got to do. So funny thing, just go to his BoxRec page, Sergey Lipinets. He's actually from Kazakhstan too, but and he's got all these medals from just random things. It's like a darts medal.
Looks like Hitler.
Oh wow! Actually, he's not joking. He has a medal around his neck that looks like Adolf Hitler's on the button or whatever you call it. But this picture, so the picture on the PBC website is actually just a picture from BoxRec in black and white. Oh my god!
Putting in that hard work.
Nobody's ever seen him before. That's the only picture
He's never been seen. This is the only photographic evidence we have.
This is the first view of his profile page on BoxRec ever.
It's probably his Facebook page as well. Like his profile picture on Facebook.
Time to do some investigative work. Also, fighting that day is Jose Zepeda. I got it wrong. I thought it was this past week. I think we even talked about it last week, but he's back. Seems like it's quickly, but it's been a few months since he last fought, when he lost via shoulder yanking out of socket thing against Dean's hometown pal, Terry Flanagan. Also fighting is Evgen Kitrov, who's the middleweight prospect who sometimes looks fantastic and sometimes looks lackluster. Also in action, this will be the big fight of the day. Jermell Charlo versus Joaquim Alcine. So this Jermell Charlo is the one who's been dropped, but the more well-rounded as far as skill goes of the Charlo brothers. He's just I just think that he's not great at anything, whereas Jermall is great at something. Jermell isn't. His last fight, he pretty much beat Vanes Martirosyan, but some people don't agree with that. He's also got a win over Gabe Rosado. And Joaquin Alcine, he's bounced around. His last fight, he fought Delvin Rodriguez to a draw. That was last year. And prior to that, he hasn't really done much. He went on a 5-fight losing streak. He lost to a murderer's row of Matthew Macklin, Brian Rose, Julian Williams, Omar Chavez, Francisco Santana. Okay. Do you know who Omar Chavez is? That's Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.'s brother.
Okay.
Oh my god.
The little one.
The murderer's row.
So then there's Tony Harrison fighting Cecil McCullough on the undercard of that. Harrison most recently lost to Who was the guy he lost to? I can't even remember, but he lost. We did not prepare for this podcast, if you can tell. Who did he lose to? Oh, Willie Nelson. Yeah, that was on the Thurman Collazo undercard. And
the country singer.
I thought Harrison was going to destroy Nelson. I thought Harrison was a legitimate.
He was supposed to.
Yeah, I thought he was a legitimate contender to be like a top guy at 154. And Harrison was already talking about Golovkin and stuff like that. But, obviously that didn't work out so well. Cecil McCullough is coming off of 2 straight losses, the first 2 losses in his career, against another murderer's row of Chris Van Heerden and Ishe Smith.
Van Heerden, who did he just fight?
He just lost to Earl Spence, and Ishe Smith just lost to, what's his name? Vanis Martirosyan.
Martirosyan, yeah.
Who we've already spoken about. And that will be the fights for next week. There are some underfights coming up, but in the week after, like the Tuesday, I believe. But we're going to talk about that next week. And just to give you a little preview, you have got a special Tuesday card coming up. This card is literally one of the best cards we will see all year. Okay? Let me just go down the list. We're not going to preview it right now, but let's talk about it. Alexander Povetkin will headline against Marius Wack. Cesar Rene Cuenca going after Mayweather's 49-0 record, and then ultimately Marciano's. He will defend his IBF super lightweight title against Edward Troyanovsky. Good fighter over there, by the way. It's a good fight, period. Denis Lebedev is going to fight Latif Coyote, and if Lebedev isn't using PEDs, as some Coyote opponents have, I don't know, maybe this is an interesting fight. All right, and then now, I'm going to skip one fight because I want to talk about another one before I talk about that one. Rakhim Shakiev will fight Ola Afolabi. Not meaningful in that there's no title, but as far as entertainment goes, this will be good. Now,
fine cruiserweight action.
No. Well, actually, yeah, that will be fine cruiserweight action. But the main fight that you should look at. So everybody loves Golovkin. Everybody loves Gonzalez. Who is the next prospect like that will come up? The knockout artist, the guy who's going to give you your money's worth, who will deliver a present to his fans each time he fights.
Anthony Joshua.
I forgot. I guess he's already in there. He's way more popular than this guy. But yeah, in that realm. Dmitry Kudryashov. He's like 20-0, 20 knockouts, and is like 20 sending people into the next dimension type of knockouts. He's a cruiserweight, so this dude hits hard. And nobody has really been able to stand up to him. And those who have tried have, they've seen their lives flash before their eyes. So
he's already ranked number 8 by the ring.
Yeah, because he's not a joke. If you have not seen him, just look up his some of his highlights. This dude he's crushing guys, and he'll be in action. And in fact, he got arrested after one of his fights because his knockout. They just said, "Hey, that's assault with a deadly weapon." There. No, I'm kidding, but I'm trying to get a job with HBO.
That's the way to go about it.
I'm just watching. You know what you said about Solis fighting Thompson?
Yeah.
I've got the video open of when he fought Thompson. I've got the video open of when he fought Klitschko, and it's like he's melted over the years since he fought Klitschko. It's like I'm watching him melt slowly.
What do you mean? He's getting softer and softer?
Yeah, he's like really...
Yeah, I mean, Thompson is maybe
he's
a few fights away from Andy Ruiz status.
Solis just looks like an ice cream melting.
Oh, we're talking about Solis.
Solis, not fucking Thompson.
No, Thompson's gained a little weight, but no, Solis is he used to be in shape at one point in time.
He looks like an ice cream slowly melting. He really does. It's hilarious.
Is he sloping or slumping over too?
Oh God, this Thompson! I've just got the Thompson fight on. It's like he ate somebody or somebody ate him, and then fought Thompson since Klitschko. He's like, the body shape's ridiculous. It's worse than Povetkin before and after.
Well, that's the body section with Dean, and we'll have him back next time to discuss another fighter's physique.
Well, I think if anybody he needs to go back and look at the Crawford the stoppage when Weeks jumps in. He's got a full on pooch hanging out.
Weeks?
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about?
He had his like HBO did this like zoom in shot on one of the last punches that Crawford landed on that sent Deary through the ropes there, and like the ref jumps in to stop it, and you could just see his belly just like thundering over his belt as he jumps in.
And we could say some more about Tony Weeks and how he almost stopped this fight before he should have stopped it because of the bell. He thought he heard the bell sounding, but at least it wasn't in the 12th round.
And no, he did it. He did a good performance. He gave him plenty of time. It was a fine stoppage.
Yeah,
Weeks is a overall good ref.
Excellent referee in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for this week. Make sure you
go back and look at Weeks's belt line.
And also subscribe to us on iTunes or share the podcast on Twitter or something. We'd like to get more people to listen to this so we can get more emails in.
Go into your local Apple store and subscribe us on iTunes onto all the Apple computers in the store.
Rate us. You could leave us feedback on the Reddit or through the email or through the Twitter. We respond to all of them. Or the comments on the website. You can do that too. We'll be back next week with a preview of... Well, next week, will we be preview? Yeah, we will be previewing Bradley Rios next week. I'm sure there'll be some good Everlast jokes about that one. Thank you for listening.